Hello everyone and welcome to UnJustified, where we always cover the truth and the facts, the good, the bad, the ugly, on an unbiased and sometimes very unpopular opinion. Today we're going to be going into part 7 of the Discovery. The reason I'm doing this read-through Discovery, and I've saw lots of comments, people thanking me for doing it, people that can't actually see the print, people that just doesn't have time to sit down and read it, and they can actually sit and listen or clean. Or I have one subscriber that even says he works out while he's listening to it, and I appreciate all y'all. And I understand that the notes that are written that I sit and try to make out, they can be very annoying. I do understand that. And so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on those handwritten notes anymore. If I can make them out like at first glance, I'm going to talk about them. If I can't, I'll just sit there for a few seconds, and if you're watching with me, then maybe you can look at it and make it out. If not, we're just going to have to try to hope that everything that's in those notes were also in the written report. And we have came across several of the notes that a little bit different than what the handwritten note was. And one good example of that is the medium. There was so much more on the handwritten part than there was in the actual report. So those things do happen, but some of them I just can't make out, and I feel like I'm just stumbling around, wasting time trying to make these words out. So I'll do the best I can, but I'm not going to focus a whole lot of time on it, okay? I hope everybody understands that. And if you want to see them, by all means, sit down at your computer or on your phone and take a quick look while I'm reading through this. And they're going to be there for you to see them. Maybe you can make them out, but I can't. So anyway, I want to throw a special shout out there to all my super fans. I don't have my notebook right in front of me, but I know that there's like 15 or 16 of you guys, and I truly appreciate that. Everything helps the channel like that. All of your support, the views, the thumbs up, the thumbs down even, the super fans. And we have a merch store now with some cool stuff in it. There's a lot of white in there, so I did have a request to start putting some darker colors in there, because a lot of people can't wear white. I can't. With kids and everything I do in my normal every day-to-day life, I can't wear white. I mean, it's going to be dirty before I walk out the front door. That's just the way it is, with little, paw prints jumping up on my legs or just stuff like that. So I'm going to get some darker color stuff in there. I'm going to get some stuff that's suitable for guys. I know we have several guys that are subs here, so I'm going to get some stuff for them in there as well. We're working on it. Just bear with me. Okay guys, so without further ado, let's get straight into this number, part 7. Okay, so this is where we ended part 6. Now, I want to say something up front. I'm still having people tell me that they can't hear me. Well, I don't really know what else I can do. I now have the mic all the way up in my face, pretty much. I'm pretty much just talking straight into it. I don't have a very loud voice, and if I try to get it any louder, I swear it'll sound like I'm screaming. So yeah, I don't want to do that either. So hopefully with having the mic right up in my face like this, it's gonna help some. I hope so. Into part 7. In part 7, we're going to be starting with the hazardous material incident. Narrative was August the 16th. So Okay, and it reads, on 8/15/2018 at 23:44 hours. That's something else I want to ask everyone. All of this is obviously in military time. I was wondering, and I have been actually telling you the actual clock terms for the times, and if that's something that you'd rather me not do as well and just leave it like they have it, hours, tell me that too. The reason I was doing that is I think maybe some people may not know military time. I actually don't. I actually have a military clock sitting here beside me, and when it comes up on here, then I refer to that to let you guys know exactly what time it was. So if that's something you want me to leave out as well, just tell me and I'll just read it straight from the report like it is written in military time. Sergeant Armstrong received a telephone call from Deputy Director Schaefer from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation requesting the assistance from the Colorado State Hazardous Materials Section with an ongoing investigation. On 8/16/2018 at 5 a.m., Sergeant Armstrong sent a message to Trooper Wilson and Ted Bandy. When I very first read this, I had to look at it 45 times because my true crime mind, you know where it went. I was like, what? But yeah, no, it's not Ted Bundy, it's Ted Bandy. And I guarantee you I'm not the only person that has called him out on that name. Both with the Colorado State Patrol Hazardous Materials Section, advising us to contact him in reference to a CBI request. At 5:04 a.m., Trooper Bandy contacted Sergeant Armstrong and advised he would be en route to Rogan, Colorado. At 5:30 a.m., I had a phone conversation with Sergeant Armstrong reference an agency assist we needed to complete. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation and Frederick Police Department asked our team to assist in recovering deceased victims from crude oil tanks in southeast Weld County. This stemmed from a case that Frederick police were investigating where 3 members of a family were missing in their jurisdiction. Investigators had reason to believe that 2 of the missing persons were deceased and dumped in 2 400-barrel crude oil tanks on an Anadarko petroleum drill site. We were asked to meet CBI agents at 7:30 a.m. on the north side of Rogan exit on I-76. I responded to Rogan and met with Sergeant Armstrong and Trooper Ted Bandy at 7:30 a.m. At 7:53 a.m., Trooper Reeder and the Colorado State Patrol Hazardous Materials Section called Sergeant Armstrong, and it was decided that a 4th hazardous material technician would be needed. CBI agents arrived and we followed them to a remote Anadarko crude oil tank site north of Rogan. Representatives from the Frederick Police, Anadarko Petroleum, DT Welding, and Northern Plains Trucking were also on scene at the tank battery. There were 2 400-barrel crude oil tanks at this location. Brett S. with Anadarko met with everyone on scene to talk about the plan and to offload both crude oil tanks and on-site safety. At 8:54 a.m., Trooper Bandy contacted the Morgan County Dispatch Center to ask for a member of the Wiggins Fire Department to contact him. At 9:02 a.m., Trooper Bandy was contacted by Tim Walker with the Wiggins Fire Department. Trooper Bandy explained the recovery effort and requested a brush truck and a tender to respond to the scene. At 9:36 a.m., Tim Walker called Trooper Bandy and stated he had a brush truck and a tender headed to the Rogan to the staging area. Sergeant Armstrong, Trooper Bandy, and I assisted CBI and Frederick Police to conduct a grid search of the field just south of the tank batteries. We were advised to flag any item that did not belong on the ground in the area. We walked from west to east, then along the east fence to the north. CSP personnel did not see anything that appeared new or out of the ordinary to the environment. Northern Plains trucking and tanker trucks on scene were methodically pumping crude oil out of the tank to the east first. The crude oil was first being drained into a metal pool. A hose with a screen device on the end of it pumped the crude oil out of the metal pool and into the tanker truck. CBI agents were watching the metal pool for any items that may be evidence in this case. Jeff Jones with Anadarko used a 4-gas monitor to constantly monitor the air around the metal pool to stop if it became too toxic or flammable. Trooper Darren Rader arrived on scene to assist once the recovery process started. While the first crude oil tank was being offloaded, Trooper Bandy, Rader, and I put rope handles on 2 containment pools. We anticipated the bodies to be covered in crude oil and were going to use the pools to put each body in once recovered. Wiggins fire personnel arrived on scene and we staged a pumper truck to the north where the recovery would take place. The first tank was emptied enough to start opening the rear manway of the truck. Welding workers took most of the 64 bolts off of the tank door and continued to pump off what crude oil was seeping out of the door. Sergeant Armstrong went up to the top of the tank and looked in the thief hat. Sergeant Armstrong told me he could see what looked like a body face down on the south side of the tank. Sergeant Armstrong took photos through the opening using the Weld County Coroner's Office camera. Sergeant Armstrong also photographed and measured the open to be approximately 8 inches in diameter utilizing a metal measuring tape. Trooper Bandy and I donned the proper personal protective equipment and finished removing the rear door to the first tank. We had DT welding employees move to an area not in view of the recovery. We used a squeegee to remove as much of the crude sludge from the manway entrance that we could. We then put 2 hydrocarbon booms in the entrance to the manway to help hold back the crude sludge so entry could be made. Brett S. provided a piece of plywood which was cut by the fire personnel so we could kneel on it when entry was made. We then had a brief safety meeting to discuss the process of recovering the body. Trooper Rader and I donned structural firefighting gear and readied our SCBA. We had 2 4-gas monitors with PID at the manway. Even with the thief hatch open and the manway off, the readings for lower explosive limit LEL and volatile organic compounds VOC were extremely elevated due to the confined space. We had Wiggins fire personnel charge a hose line and move closer to the manway entrance. Trooper Bandy and Sergeant Armstrong were posted at the hatch opening with a 4-gas monitor. We went on air at 15:41 hours, and that is 3:41 p.m., and made entrance to the first tank at 15:42, and that would be 3:42 p.m. Trooper Rader went in first, and then me close behind. There was a body, face down on the south side of the tank, with the head facing west. It appeared to be a small female child. Trooper Rader grasped the upper portion of her right arm to turn her over. Trooper Rader then lifted her by both upper arms as I held her right leg. Trooper Rader held her left arm and left leg as we moved the body towards the manway. Trooper Bandy grasped the left wrist and shoulder area as Sergeant Armstrong did the same on the right side. As the victim was passed through the manway, her left hand was degloved. I've read this part of the discovery several times, and it's always hard to read. It's just I don't know how these rescuers are heroes. They really are. How they could, especially think about the ones that has kids that age. Man, this whole rescue. I personally think that they should have made Chris watch this rescue. You know, I think they should have, to see what in the hell he did. Trooper Bandy and Sergeant Armstrong continued to support her body as she was placed into a containment pool. Sergeant Armstrong retrieved and removed skin that was from the left hand and gave it to one of the gloved Frederick police officers. Trooper Bandy and Sergeant Armstrong then moved the pool of the dirt berm and put it on a table. Trooper Raider and I walked around in approximately 4 inches of crude sludge and looked for anything else in the tank that may be evidence. We did not see anything in the sludge. We exited the tank at 3:44 p.m. and walked to the field behind the tanks to be decontaminated. Joy W. with Weld County Coroner's Office was on the scene and took control of the recovered body. Wiggins fire personnel sprayed Trooper Raider and I down and tried to remove as much crude oil as possible from our PPE. We went off air at 3:46 p.m. We then walked back over to our trucks and changed out of our PPE and back into lighter clothing to recover. Sergeant Armstrong continued to monitor the victim using a 4-gas monitor, as Weld County coroner and pathologist attempted to remove crude oil utilizing several oil-absorbent pads. The first victim was then placed into a body bag and taken to the Weld County coroner's vehicle. The second tank to the west had less crude oil in it and was pumped off quicker than the first tank. Sergeant Armstrong went to the top of that tank and looked in the thief hatch. Sergeant Armstrong told me he could see another body that appeared to be face up on the south side of the tank. Sergeant Armstrong took additional photographs using the Weld County coroner's camera. Sergeant Armstrong also photographed and measured the open to be approximately 8 inches in diameter, utilizing a metal measuring tape. While Trooper Reeder and I were donning the same PPE, Trooper Bandy and Sergeant Armstrong finished removing the manway door on the second tank. Wiggins fire personnel again charged a hose line and moved closer to the second tank. Trooper Bandy and Sergeant Armstrong prepared the opening in the same manner as the first tank by placing a piece of plywood and 2 hydrocarbon booms by the opening. Sergeant Armstrong monitored the entranceway with a 4-gas monitor. The levels were measuring about the same as the first tank. Trooper Reeder and I went on air at 5:53 p.m. and made entry into the tank at 5:54 p.m. I went in first with Trooper Reeder close behind. I walked over and I could see a small child's body face up. I grabbed her right arm near the wrist area and moved her towards the manway. At this point, Trooper Reeder was able to secure her left arm and left leg. Trooper Reeder and I then passed the body through the manway. Bandy grasped the left wrist and shoulder area as Armstrong did the same on the right side. As the victim was passed through the manway, Bandy and Armstrong continued to support her body as she was placed into a containment pool. During this extraction, there was some skin slippage where we had to touch the victim's body. There was also some skin on the plywood where her back made contact. Rader and I then walked around the inside of that tank, which also had approximately 4 inches of crude sludge in it. We did not locate any additional evidence in the tank. We exited the tank and walked over to the field south of the tanks. The body was turned over to the Weld County coroner. Armstrong continued to monitor the second victim using a 4-gas monitor as the Weld County coroner and pathologist attempted to remove the crude oil utilizing several oil-absorbent pads. The second victim was then placed into a body bag and taken to the Weld County coroner's vehicle. Wiggins' fire again decontaminated both of us with hose spray and firefighting foam. We went off air at 17:56, and that would be 5:56 p.m. Rader and I then went back to our response trucks and removed our PPE. We cleaned up our equipment and began putting everything away. Trooper Rader and I changed back into our patrol uniforms. Our on-scene hazmat team continued cleaning up and putting equipment away. All of the contaminated equipment was gathered and placed within a large tarp. Brett S. stated that he would make arrangements with a cleanup contractor to take care of the contaminated items. We cleared the scene at approximately 18:45, and that would be 6:45 p.m. Additional notes. After speaking with CBI agent in charge, Lewis, he advised all of us to complete one report with all of our input because we were acting as one unit. All times indicated in this report are approximate. And there's where they signed off on it. Here's the notes. And this is it's just names of the people I believe that were involved in the recovery. A witness address update. And this is just the names of each of the different witnesses. Nicole Atkinson, Sam Paisley, Jeremy Lindstrom, Addie Maloney, Christina Meacham, Cindy Durasett, Taylor Welch. Weld County Office of the District Attorney called detail report. This is kind of like a timeline, I believe, when everything started, because it starts with a phone call and then Coonrod went out, and I believe that's all that is, and I'm pretty sure this is just the timeline. Call detail report. Telling what time they arrived on scene and all such as that. So, and this is telling about the call, and we all know what the call said when Nicole called. If you don't know, there's tons of that out there, and I've also already read it, like in part 1, so we'll go on through that. And I'm going to go through this kind of, I'm going to scroll through this kind of, slow, so you can look at it if you want, but I'm not going to read it all. This is everything that we've already read. This is just the reports and call times and all such as that. Okay, some of these calls I don't remember reading, and they look kind of interesting, so some of them here, some of these calls that they got in here, I think I will read aloud. Has info about missing person. Reporter noticed a strange car with someone that had a hoodie on. Billings and Miners Peak Circle. Old Lexus with paint peeling. Seems suspicious and driving around. Thinks it may be related. Or 1725. And that would be 5 p.m. Sandra Rusek, Shanann's mother, has information and may have lead on the situation. Addie Maloney requesting to speak to someone, and missing party was a friend, would like to speak with officer. Shanann's mother saw on Channel 9 that Shanann's husband said at the end of the video that his kids were fine and then corrected himself. Request officers to watch the video. Shanann's mother is calling in saying to see about checking the baby monitors, one in each kid's room and on Shanann's bedside. Sandra stated to not tell Chris about the baby monitors. Cindy Darasset spoke with officer earlier and has more information for him. Reporter is the cousin to the missing female. Requires a phone call from a detective. She would like more information about the situation and would like to provide some to the detective as well. Report calling from Arizona. And this is a different, I have been keeping 983 apprised of everything as it has been coming out. Jake Willis with Assist Protection has video footage he wants police department to check out referencing the missing female and the kids. She may have been in the store on the 14th of August. Reporter has Officer James's card. Fox 31 News Denver would like contact with the police department. Thinks she possibly made contact with the female and 2 kids last night. Another reporter calling in stated that she received an email from People magazine wanting information about this situation, but states that she lives in Minnesota but is from Colorado, so she had shared the missing person ad on Facebook. The email was very strange and just wanted to let the police know. Another reporter in Michigan saw a female in a local grocery store, and obviously that wasn't them either. And all these sightings I'm not going to read because we know that wasn't them. A mother of missing, Sandra Rusek, would like an update on what is going on. Stated it's been 6 hours since she last heard anything. Sergeant Heineman in New Jersey called back upset, hasn't heard any of the officers investigating yet. Okay, this is another news channel. Here is one, saw the news about the missing female and her 2 kids. Believes she may have seen them. Nope. No reason to read that one. Sandra Rusick calling in. No one called her back. Has been 3 hours. Would like officer to call by phone. Wants to know what is going on. Is the number to call her. Okay. News channels. Frank Rusick, he is the father to Shanann, and wants a call referencing why the house is taped off. He is calling from out of state and has advised of this by a neighbor that lives in the area. And that was on 8/15. He wants to know why the house is taped off. Okay, going on down, we got a vibrant an alarm from the front door in the living room at 22:12. 22:12 is going to be 10:12. Vivant received an alarm from the front door in their living room at 10:12 on 8/15 at 10:12 p.m. 8/15. Here's one. Father of victim found out info by the news and he's contacted ASAP. So Frank Rusick found out through the news on the day Chris confessed. That's terrible. He should have been alerted before the damn media was. I mean, imagine that. I assume they contacted him and Sandra before they contacted the media and let them know Chris had confessed, but obviously not, because it says right there, Frank found out about everything on the news. That's terrible. Okay, it looks like everything else is just media request and media calling on that page. And so let's go on down. And you know, that's another really good example of why this readout is pretty good for all of it. I read this before, right? And it's been a while, but when I got to this part and I saw the first few pages was just like pretty much, I thought they were signing off and, you know, it was the news and all that. I just kind of flew through it. I didn't even really stop and look at it and read it, right? Because I just assumed it was all of the same. But, you know, right there, I'm not sure if you guys knew it, and you may have. I didn't. Because even after reading this so many times, I'm not going to say so many, like 2 or 3 times, but even though I've read this 2 or 3 times, I didn't know that Frank and Sandy learned about Chris's confession and that Shanann and the kids were dead on the damn news. Like, to me, that's a really big deal. They should have had a little privacy and found something out like that before the media knew about it. That really upsets me. That's wrong. I mean, so the media was contacted before they were. That really bothers me. I mean, I know it happens. It happens every day. And a lot of us has found out stuff about our relatives through the media, Facebook, social media, but it shouldn't be that way. And I never knew that. Did you know that? I mean, that's why I'm kind of looking deeper into this discovery now than I ever did before. And I have to admit, there's several things that I have seen that I don't remember seeing before because I didn't really dig that deep when I read it myself. I just kind of, I read it, but, you know, things like this I just kind of went over and didn't even take the time to look at it all. But that's one of the things right there that I didn't know. Did you? Okay, let's go on. Okay, this looks like pretty much news channels wanting information, except right here, this is another reporter, Eric, and he says he would like to know if the information on TV is true. Reporter and his girlfriend Brandy are good friends of Shanann. So see, And this is 8:15 as well. And this is at 23:34, so that's going to be at 11:34 p.m. So it looks like all this came out on the 10 or 11 o'clock news, whatever. Here it's 10 o'clock news. Sometimes we get it at 9 o'clock, but looks like all this came out. We all know Chris confessed to everything at like 5:30. Was it 5:39, something like that? At that point, 5:39, whatever it was, just say 6 o'clock, somebody should have contacted the family before the media started throwing it out there 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. Because the family's sitting there watching TV and friends and everything, and this is the first they've heard of it. Wrong on every damn level. Hey, this one is like it looks like they're ending the search warrants and canceling those out because now they know that they're not missing anymore. Okay, here is one that came on 8/16. And it says, reporter would like contact, referencing a Facebook comment post on Channel 7 News by Danielle M., giving very detailed information about the female and the kids' demise. Reporter is Julie F. Okay, and this is more call detail report. And this is just the code numbers and times and dates. And more of the same. And there's the officers that were involved we've been talking about. More call details and officer logs and radio logs. It says reporter was crying, stated she needed officers to get there now, stating she is unsure if they are armed. Stated that she is pregnant and needed officers to know that in case she dies. Reporter to get somewhere safe, but reporter on call taker. Oh, this is crazy. Needing call from Frederick officers ASAP. National Center of Missing Children are calling. And this just shows that it's the description of the call records on 8/15 in reference to 2825 Saratoga Trail. That's all on that one. And then going on down, this is the calls that was received by Officer Perez about 2825 Saratoga Trail. And this says, reporter is psychic and says the missing woman is speaking to her. Reporter believes she is deceased, but it is possible that the girls are still alive. Reporter asked if a recycle type plant is close to the house, so the woman used the word recycle. Is being said over and over, getting images of an open field, possibly behind the woman's home. Also seeing blue barrels, 55-gallon drums, maybe. Also seeing two males in overalls, unknown what type. Contact reporter by phone if needed. Very odd. Okay, going on down. And that's just another call log. And reporter has video footage he wants the police department to check out. Reference the missing female and the kids. She may have been in the store on the 14th. And obviously that was not a lead. But I do appreciate, I'm glad people do call in tips because you never know. You know, it could be, but unfortunately these wasn't. needs to speak to coroner about the Watts case. Okay, going on down. Reporter works at the ultrasound clinic and has some medical information for investigators. Would like to continue by phone. And this is another call report. And this is just showing when they arrived on scene and completed their calls. And reporter lives next door. 3 people inside the house. 1 camera person. Male with suit. Reporter doesn't think they are supposed to be in the house. 8:17 this report was taken. Yeah, this is when Nate called to tell him that there was a lot of people in the house and he didn't know, but somebody had on a suit. And so they kind of logged it as a possible burglary. They didn't know. And so, yeah, the cops sped there and everything. And it ended up just being Chris's defense team that was there. Reporters spoke with the parents of the female that was involved in the incident, and they were not aware that anyone was supposed to be in the house. Reporter states there is a lot of media around, and he couldn't answer any more questions. Reporter stated the people that were in the house are going all throughout the house. Forensic investigators for the defense. See the supplemental report for the original case. Forensic investigators for defense. Okay, going on down. Reference items that were dumped at 6507 Black Mesa Road. Continue reporter by phone. Driver takes all trash to Erie dump site dumped on top of the area on Tuesday. We've done read about that. Okay, going on down. This is going to be the district attorney's E911 radio traffic request. This is 824. And it says Defendant Watts, date of birth, case number. Initial call came in on 8/13. Subsequent communications in relation to this call. We are requesting any and all of those communications and or calls. And I have no idea. I can't say that. FBI collection item call log. Evidence entry recorded. Interview of Nicole Kassinger. 8/20/2018. In reference to Christopher and Shanann Watts, missing, abducted mother and children, Special Agent Philip Jones from the FBI, recorded interview of Nicole Kassinger on August the 15th, 2018. This is an FBI. It says Ronnie Watts, date of birth, home address, Spring Lake, North Carolina. Cellular telephone was interviewed by the Frederick Police Department after being advised of the identity of the interviewing agent and the nature of the interview. Watts provided the following information. Note, the below is an interview summary. This is not intended to be a verbatim account and does not memorialize all statements made during the interview. Communications by the parties in the interview room were electronically recorded. The recording captures the actual words spoken. The recording of this interview is maintained within the Frederick Police Department. Watts was notified by his son Christopher Watts on Monday, 8/13/2018, that Chris's wife and 2 young daughters were missing. Chris was unsure where they went or where they were currently located. Chris advised Watts that his wife did not take her cellular phone, purse, and vehicle. Chris thought that his wife and children may have went to stay with a friend, but Chris did not tell Watts who that friend was. Chris advised Watts that he and his wife had a separation discussion prior to Chris going to work on Monday. Watts arrived to assist Chris in his search for his wife and children on Wednesday, 8:15. Watts arrived at DIA around 9:15 to 9:20 a.m. and was picked up by Chris. DIA is Denver International Airport. Watts advised that Chris and his wife had met in North Carolina and were married there. They moved to Colorado approximately 7 or 8 years ago. Chris and Shanann have 2 daughters, Bella and Cece, as well as a baby on the way. Shanann recently visited North Carolina with her family for approximately 6 weeks to see family and friends. Chris met them for approximately 1 week during the last portion of the visit. Shanann stayed with Watts and his wife at their residence during the first part of the visit. During the second week, Shanann and Watts' wife had a blowout, and Shanann left with her children to stay at her parents' house. Watts described the argument between Shanann and his wife as a disagreement over dealing with the children. After Shanann and the children left Watts' residence, Watts did not see them again for the remainder of their trip. Watts advised that Shanann went back to Colorado after the North Carolina visit for a day or two and then went on a business trip to Arizona for a conference. Shanann works for Lavelle Thrive Nutrition as a salesperson. Shanann went on the business trip with her friend Nicole. Shanann is very active online and has a lot of Facebook friends. Watts is unaware of any suspicious activity involving Shanann. Watts advised that Chris has one sister, Jamie, who lives in North Carolina. Chris works for Anadarko Petroleum as an oil and gas worker. Watts is unaware of any financial difficulties that Chris and Shanann were facing. Watts describes Shanann as controlling, narcissistic, and possibly bipolar. Watts has not witnessed any verbal or physical altercations between Chris and Shanann. Watts is unaware of any threats made between Chris and Shanann. Watts feels that most of the issues between Shanann and Chris are caused by Shanann. Watts advised that Shanann has some physical health problems, including lupus and spine issues. Watts is unaware of Shanann receiving any counseling or psychological treatment. Watts believes that Chris typically leaves for work around 5 or 5:30 a.m. and returns home between 4 and 5 p.m. Chris usually picks up the kids from daycare on his way home. Shanann typically drops the kids off at daycare in the morning. Watts believes that Chris and Shanann's house is currently for sale and they have talked about getting separated. Chris and Shanann have no other relatives who reside in Colorado. Watts was unsure why Chris and Shanann moved to Colorado from North Carolina. Watts does not know where Shanann or her children may have gone. Watts could not provide any additional details regarding their location. Watts was very cooperative and amenable to future contact. Okay, now before anyone comes out and starts bashing on Mr. Watts for what he said, you may not agree with what he's saying, and maybe I don't agree, whatever. We don't know Shanann. We don't know Chris personally, either one of them. So, at this point, when Ronnie is given this interview, keep in mind, he doesn't know yet what's actually happened, right? This is before Chris took him in there and told him. So, so keep in mind, this is Ronnie's truth, okay? And they all have a version of their own truth. And I understand this is really a bad time of the year to be even reading this discovery part, but it is part of the discovery, and I've been working on this now for a while, and I've got to get it done, right? So just keep in mind, before anyone wants to come out attacking or saying Ronnie's full of shit, or they're just, they're terrible people, they hated Shanann. It's not our call, y'all. This is their truth, and the Ruseks have their truth. Chris has his. Shanann, unfortunately, had her own, but she's not here to defend herself at the moment. But there's a many Facebook posts out there of her telling her truth about his family. So, let's not bash anyone. I don't believe in bashing anyone. I don't like drama. I keep our channel unbiased the very best I can. So, we're looking at facts, and please don't, in the comments, bad mouthing either family, period. Really. I mean, what Chris did is incomprehensible. And if you want to say what you feel about him and bashing on him, that's okay. I don't care. I really don't, because what he did is unforgivable in my book. People say forgive and forget. There is things that's unforgivable. That's why it's even a word, unforgivable. And what he did, in my eye, is unforgivable. At the same time, we're not going to come up, we're not going to, this family against this family, we're not going to be pitting people against each other here. We're all going to listen to their truths, their truth. That's what their truth is. And if we don't agree with it, and a lot of us isn't going to, I'll just be straight honest, a lot of us just ain't. But what your mom always taught you, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say nothing at all. And I believe in that rule, and that rule of thumb, that rule of life right there, in most situations. And when it comes to bashing either one of these families, I don't believe in it. I'm not going to do it. They all lost. Everybody hurt. Everybody has their own truth in this. And it's not for us to judge or decide. It's really not. Unless you knew them personally. If you knew them personally, and you can prove to me you knew them personally, then by all means, tell us your truth and tell us what you know. But if you don't, and all you know is the same thing we all know, what we've been reading and seeing from the discoveries and the interviews and the videos, then, we're on the outside looking in, right? So please don't bash on either side of the families, because I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to delete it, because it's not right. It just isn't right. And I'm going to tell you, I don't agree with a hell of a lot that I've heard from certain sides, but at the same time, you don't hear me on here bashing families, and you don't hear me on here, oh, their family's awesome and their family is a piece of shit. I'm not going to do that, because I can't make that damn call. I don't know them personally. And each person has their own truth. And this is true. The way it goes is one man's truth is another man's slander, another man's harassment, another man's discrimination. And vice versa. That's the way it goes. One man's enemy is another man's freedom fighter. So you can't make the call unless you're there, right? You can't make the call unless you're on the inside judging firsthand. You can't make it on the outside looking in on the families. You obviously can, Chris. You obviously can, Nicole. I'm going to go ahead and say it. You can. because she put herself in a place to be judged. She really did. She truly did. And there you go, so judge away there, right? But at the same time, these two families didn't. They didn't ask for this. Neither family asked for this horrible thing to happen to them. Both families hurt. So, bashing either side is not going to work here. Just don't. Okay, moving right along. And this is notes, and I probably can't make it out. And if I can't, I'm not going to try. Ronnie Watts, Spring Lake, North Carolina. Chris is his son. Chris called him Monday at 4:30 p.m. or 5 p.m. telling him that his wife was gone. Okay, we're going to stop right here on part 7, and I will be right back with part 8. I hope you learned something new from this one. I learned a few new things from this one that I had overlooked when I've read it before. Some things interesting, some things we already knew, but I hope you enjoyed this one, and stay tuned for part 8.